Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello, good morning. The headband is back. I just didn't want to tuck it all under the hat again today. Good morning, August 6th. It's Tuesday. Liv Moods ran you guys through it a little bit yesterday, but we're changing things up just a little bit. You'll be seeing me on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Liv on Mondays and Fridays. You'll be seeing Jay on Wednesdays. We're changing things up. We're freshening things, making sure that you guys aren't getting sick of seeing my ugly mug every single day. But we are back here. We got plenty to talk about. Lots of Olympic updates. Drama in the football world at all levels. We got a lot to unpack. And again, more history being made on the Olympic front. Ooh, is this TV just came on in here? Sorry about that, folks. But more Olympic history being made, and there's a couple things that Liv talked about yesterday that I want to dive into just a little bit more because, again, there are some amazing things that are happening at the Olympics, specifically here over this past weekend. Records being set, history being made, first time we've ever seen certain things, and an unbelievable triumph in gymnastics. We're going to get into all of it, but let's start off the top here. Oh my goodness. The NFL. You know, I cover the NHL on a day-to-day basis. And whenever you hear of a player getting in trouble for something off ice, it's always met with harsh criticism among NHL circles, whether it's something that a player gets legally in trouble for or otherwise. If there's stuff that happens away from the rink, it is really people online, fans of the game. People do not like to see that stuff happen, and fans are constantly, harshly criticizing the NHL for any trouble that any of the players potentially get into. A lot of times I see fans saying, gosh, this is the worst league. The worst league, the way that the players act outside of the game is the worst league. Jordan Addison, 22-year-old wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. Highly regarded, looked at as someone who could be a key impact player for the Minnesota Vikings. Like I said, 22 years old, was officially charged with a misdemeanor DWI following his arrest last month on July 12th. Addison was found asleep behind the wheel of his white Rolls Royce, blocking lanes of freeway traffic. If convicted or a plea deal, found guilty, he could face up to 6 months in jail, fines of up to $2,000, and his license being suspended for a minimum of 6 months. The NFL actually has a protocol for this. They have different minimum suspensions for what a player is arrested for and which legal infraction is this. So it's your first time being arrested, is your second time being arrested, is your third time being arrested. And it's even broken out into smaller subcategories of, is this your first time being arrested for alcohol-related charges, et cetera, so on and so forth. So the NFL is so familiar with this process that they've actually got rules and guidelines that surround players being arrested and what the suspension is. Jordan Addison faces up to 6 months in jail, but because this is his first alcohol-related arrest, he only faces up to a 3-game suspension from the NFL. Now, again, why is this so common? Not why is this common, but just how common is this in the NFL? Since 2000, Jordan Addison is the 58th Minnesota Vikings player to be arrested. Not just in the NFL, he is the 58th player of the Minnesota Vikings organization to be arrested since the year 2000. Just for the record, the Denver Broncos sit in second place on that list with 56 players arrested in the last 24 years. Those are active players currently on the roster, or that were on the roster at the time of their arrest. Studies showed that between the year 2000 and 2017, so we're a little bit removed from that, the NFL was averaging about 50 arrests per year league-wide. Why doesn't this get talked about more? The NFL has normalized players getting in legal trouble to the point that it's just kind of brushed off. I even remember a couple years ago when Melvin Gordon came to Denver to play for the Broncos, he was in the middle of a DUI investigation. And when it was all wrapped up, he was told he has to serve a 3-game suspension, but he was given the choice. Would you like to serve that suspension at the beginning of the season or at the end? The NFL doesn't really seem to have much of an issue with its players behaving this way, and it's problematic. We remember just a couple of years ago, young, very similar to Jordan Addison's situation, rookie with the Las Vegas Raiders, hit and killed a woman and her child in a drunk driving incident going well over 100 miles an hour, ended up in prison. He's still in prison to this day. You set dangerous precedents when the punishment is a slap on the wrist. The punishment for Jordan Addison, once he gets through the legal process, which will probably result in just fines, maybe a suspended license, will be you got to sit out for 3 games, but don't do that again, okay? He's probably going to do it again. The numbers that I looked into after seeing this are staggering. It's 2024. This is a 58th Vikings player arrested. You're averaging more than 2 per year if you're the Minnesota Vikings. And for the record, there's a lot of other teams that are 45 plus in the last 24 years. Dangerous precedents that the NFL is constantly setting. It needs to be taken much more seriously, and there needs to be real consequences, for players, and harsher consequences beyond what the legal system does, because there's again, it's a DWI. He's probably going to get fines. He's probably going to get his license suspended. But these are young kids who, across all pro sports, when you're a highly touted prospect, young athlete, you're used to getting away with a lot. And in my opinion, a rule like a 3-game suspension that can be served at the player's leisure sends the wrong message, sends a message of you can continue to get away with whatever you want. And you can continue to get away with whatever you want. And I wasn't going to go to the comments, but I actually see one here where they're talking about, the NBA doesn't handle stuff right. Brings up Ja Morant. And the gun brandishing thing wasn't handled adequately by the NBA. Well, he did it again. And it's a great call out there by Cedric in the chat of, that's the exact type of thing. When you don't take this stuff seriously, you end up with a situation like the Raiders were in a couple years ago, where you have a young player that actually kills somebody in a drunk driving accident, and now his whole life is ruined. That family's entire universe is shattered. And you just don't want to be setting the precedent that these players can get away with whatever they want. And I worry that's what you're seeing potentially with Jordan Addison. We'll be following this one as he works his way through the legal process, then also how the NFL responds on the other side of it. Let's move on, but staying in football, the UFL and, yes, The Rock being sued by the U.S. Army after a failed marketing campaign with the league. The league was supposed to run ads and be mentioning the U.S. Army. They were to wear U.S. Army patches on their jerseys like you see right here. The deal also included that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who owns the UFL, by the way, he's not just listed in this lawsuit because they don't like the WWE, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was supposed to tweet 5 separate times from his personal Twitter X account promoting the U.S. Army. Now, there's an $11 million marketing deal with the UFL, and the U.S. Army is suing for $6 million back because the Army is claiming they did not sign up any new recruits during the campaign, and the Army even alleges that they lost nearly 40 previously committed recruits during the time of this marketing campaign. Now, again, I don't necessarily know if they're saying that that's directly correlated to the marketing campaign with the UFL, but they are alleging and reporting that not only did this deal with the UFL result in no new recruits, but that the U.S. Army was actually a net negative during this campaign with the UFL. So they are looking to recoup $6 million of their original $11 million investment. Like I mentioned, the deal also included that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would tweet 5 times from his, or I shouldn't say tweet, post 5 times from his personal social media accounts. In the verbiage that we've been able to see, it doesn't specifically say on the X platform, but 5 different posts across The Rock's personal social media accounts promoting the military. They are alleging he only posted twice. So essentially, the Army is saying, not only did you guys not uphold your end of the deal, not only did you guys not follow through on the commitments that you said you would, but the campaign was an overall disaster that did not result in what the U.S. Army was hoping. And again, that was through ads, commercials, as well as jerseys, patches on every jersey of every UFL team. So we're seeing it in the NBA, the NHL, teams starting to go to jersey sponsors. Each team has their own individual patch right here. No. The U.S. Army had this patch that you're seeing on the screen right here on every UFL jersey in the league. And they lost nearly 40 recruits. Anecdotally, like at face value, that's hilarious, right? Like that is funny, objectively. That you you say, hey, we're going to go do this to get all these new recruits, and you lose almost 40 previously committed who had said that they were going to sign and then never got across the final finish line. So a disaster for the U.S. Army in terms of marketing, and they're looking to recoup more than half of what they invested into that campaign. Again, the UFL pushing back, saying that they did what they were supposed to. Now, the one area of that where you can't say that if you're the UFL is that in the papers, again, the documents that we've seen that are being made public, The Rock was committed to posting 5 times from his personal account and didn't follow through on that. So I believe from the UFL standpoint, the only leg that they, or really the only weak part of their argument, they're saying we did what we were supposed to do. It's not our fault that you guys didn't get the recruits. Well, The Rock didn't do what he was supposed to do, so we'll see how that one plays out. Again, sticking football, we're going college, and we are heading right up the road here to Boulder, Colorado, and Coach Prime. More rumors, allegations, and just overall more attention, and maybe not in the way that you want. And I'm gonna park the conversation here for a minute because I think there is a lot to unpack here. Now, Prime and the CU Buffs got on my radar at the tail end of last week. I knew I was going to want to talk about them. They were facing some, what I thought was kind of lighthearted criticism over the weekend and at the tail end of last week as they got on the field for the first time and they pulled on their practice jerseys, and each player's social media handle is featured on the nameplate on the back. Like I said, this kind of got on my radar in a funny way. People were giving them a hard time. A lot of people harking back to the Oregon Ducks game last year where the Buffs were smoked 49-10. And the Oregon coach before had the viral speech that started going around to his team saying they're playing for clicks, we're playing for wins. Poking some fun at the show that kind of became the CU Buffs at the beginning of last season with people like The Rock showing up, College Game Day showing up, Lil Wayne walking the team out onto the field. After giving that speech to his team, the Oregon Ducks went out and backed it up, showed they weren't playing for clicks, like I said, and smoked the Buffs 49-10 in Boulder. So that made me laugh. I said, oh, that'd be a funny thing to talk about, that Buffs players have their social media handles on the back of their jerseys. Quickly on that, look, I don't care. Athletes are trying to build their brand now. You got all the NIL stuff. I genuinely, it doesn't bother me. I thought it was funny. So you can do whatever you want there. But over the Sunday into Monday, Steve Corder of Athlon Sports put out an article reporting that since Deion Sanders took over the CU football program, that things have, quote, turned into a real-life Grand Theft Auto. The article alleges that former players are coming forward with the information of forced fighting in the locker room, forced attendance at certain events, preferential treatment for certain players, as well as gambling and gambling debts being fought over in the locker room. Harsh, strong allegations. And the article and the author, Steve Corder, claim that these sources that they are quoting in the article are former Buff players, presumably from last year, right? Coach Prime's only been there this will be his second season. If you're talking about former players who can speak to the culture in the locker room, the article is claiming that these quotes are from players who were there last year. Keep in mind, these are all allegations. There's a lot of people who cover the team, who work for the team, who work around the team, who are vehemently and strongly pushing back on these allegations, saying that it's all just another attempt to put the program down. Current players, after practice yesterday, came out and pushed back and said nobody knows what's going on here. Ryan Koenigsberg from DNVR Buffs. I know Ryan very well from my time with DNVR, and he's maybe as dialed into the program as anybody. Has followed the team extremely closely for decades. I listened to their podcast yesterday. He even sounded angry at the way that a lot of this is being portrayed because, again, this is someone who I know in person. I know Ryan well, and he spends a lot of time around the team, and he, again, vehemently pushed back and said that he's been around this team for years and years, and he argues that the culture has maybe never been better than where it is at right now. That there's maybe never been more professionals in the lineup than ever. A lot of folks in the last 48 hours, again, that are around the team, that work for the team, that cover the team, are saying that this is only going to get worse between now and the start of the season, that this is a program that's been moved into the spotlight, and that they are open to more attacks and finger pointing and rumor mongering and people trying to just cut down the program. And this is where I was, on the drive in today, really starting to think, Isn't that a problem? This CU football team has to. They have no choice but to go out and perform this year. They are projected a little bit all over the board, with some pundits picking them to make the expanded playoff this year, with others saying that they probably aren't going to be much better than last year. And a lot of the negative criticism surrounds this man right here, Coach Prime. How good of a coach is he? There was a lot of talk and a lot of flash, and a lot of players turned over and said, we went out and redid this roster and we got them dogs, only to go 4-8. Deion Sanders and Coach Prime has to back things up this year. Otherwise, these rumors are only going to get worse, and the attention is only going to continue to go to Deion Sanders in a way that has the potential to detract from any good that is being done at the program. with the program? Any potential positives to take away from what's happening with the players on the field, or what the results potentially could be if this team does not go out and back up everything that he's done? Because look, there's one thing you cannot, I don't care if you're the biggest CU supporter, you hate them, you're a big CSU fan. He has been polarizing since he got there. He has been loud. He's been in your face. He's approached roster building in a way that I don't know if anyone else in sports has, let alone college athletics. Coming in and clearing the decks and bringing in almost exclusively new players, including transferring in his 2 sons. You had the incident earlier this year where Shiloh and Shadur went to walk in the Louis Vuitton fashion show while there were team activities going on. I'm not saying Deion Sanders has done anything wrong, or that he's leading the program down a bad path, or that he's breeding a bad culture. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is that when you come in and you run a program or a sports team or a franchise or an organization the way that Deion Sanders has, you are 100% going to open yourself up to the possibility of criticism and maybe, unfair or fair allegations and people taking shots. This is a massive year for the program. And you wonder, how long does Deion Sanders stay? I feel fairly confident in saying from folks that I've talked to that he's probably not going to take an NFL job. But I also know from individuals that I've talked to that have said that, who are much more dialed into this program than I am, who have said that they don't think he'll stay very long after Shiloh and Shadur have left. And so, you sit there and you say, is this what you want for the program long term? Every offseason, question marks and former players saying this and people out to get you. Is this what the program wants long term? Is this what the program is going to get long term if it stays Deion Sanders? Or is this a true case of someone coming in, disrupting the establishment a bit and trying to change the way that things are viewed? NIL and the way that universities can now compensate athletes have changed everything about college football. Everything. And are we just seeing Deion Sanders' version of this that will eventually feel more normal because more teams will be doing it and using the transfer portal and treating this more like a minor pro league than a college leagues, divisions? I don't know. Time will only tell on that. Right now, I know it's bringing a lot of distractions to the Buffs program, and the only way that they overcome that is by going out onto the field and winning games. At the end of the day, that's what's going to tell the story of this tenure. That's what's going to tell the story of this era in the coaching staff's history. So we'll see. Right now, from what I've read, stuff I've listened to, different articles I've gone through, it sounds more like the allegations that came out from Steve Corder and Athlon Sports were, if nothing else, highly exaggerated allegations. But we'll see. If there's, some of these former players can come forward with hard proof, then all right, we'll revisit it. But it sounds like these are allegations and just more stuff that it's just kind of all coming with the sideshow that Deion Sanders has brought. We'll see if that translates into results on the field. Because if it does, doesn't really matter. No one's going to care what Deion Sanders is doing and how he runs his team if it breeds results. Okay, I think that's going to do it for football. Let's briefly stop over at the Olympics. I got a couple things I want to go over. And like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on them because I know Liv Moods, who does outstanding work for us and hosts his show on Mondays and Fridays, did talk briefly about it yesterday. But I wanted to talk quickly about Noah Lyles and the historic nature of this men's 100-meter final. Not only was this an outstanding race to watch, not only was it a dramatic finish for first place, this was also the smallest gap ever between first and eighth place in a global men's 100-meter final. What you are seeing right there, 1/10 of a second, 0.12 was the split between first place gold medal at the Olympics and eighth place dead last. Anybody who watched this live, or at least a full speed, real-time replay, look, I'm not like a track and field enthusiast. I'm not watching world championships and qualifying matches throughout the year necessarily, but I love watching track and field at the Olympics. I have never seen a race like this that was so closely contested. It felt like normally when those races start, you can see a couple of people start to separate and you say, all right, those are probably your favorites. Maybe someone can, get in the hunt late. This was dead even up to maybe the last 10 meters. And then you maybe saw, a couple of runners get a stride length ahead at absolute best. The results were delayed in being announced. There were multiple athletes that thought I might have won. And it was Noah Lyles by 5/1000 of a second. The broadcast isn't built to go 3 decimal points deep. So there were a lot of people online that were saying, well, hold on. Why are they giving it to Noah Lyles? There was a tie at the top. There wasn't. The Olympics went 3 decimal places deep. 0.005 was what won Noah Lyles the Olympic gold medal. He said after that he's going to try to work with Nike to get his own shoe. It was a big moment for Noah Lyles after a disappointing qualifying round where he was beat pretty handily, coming in second place to qualify for the final. But he wins 0.12 seconds between first place Olympic gold and eighth place last in the men's 100-meter final. Just absolutely unbelievable stuff to watch. That is definitely one of those moments where in 20 years you will be able to say, man, I remember watching that. How crazy it was and the drama that kind of came with it in the minutes and the moments following it. So Noah Lyles wins a historic 100-meter final. His name will always be tied to that 100-meter final as the gold medalist. Great moment for him. I want to talk also briefly about Rebecca Andrade. I'm not fully sure how to say that. Gymnast from Brazil, who we talked about a couple times last week on the show during the women's all-around final. As someone who Simone Biles talked about after winning her gold medal, unseating Rebecca Andrade, who was sitting in first place going into Simone Biles' final floor routine, which was the last apparatus for the women's all-around final. Simone Biles saying, I do not want to compete against her anymore. She's getting too good. She's too close, with many people saying if it wasn't for Simone Biles, Rebecca would be running away with probably most of the medals here at the Paris 2024 Olympics. It is widely considered that this is the only gymnast that is even in the realm of where Simone Biles is at, or where she's been at her prime, in her prime, I should say. And she wins the women's floor final. And the photo that was going viral was Jordan Childs and Simone Biles bowing and kneeling to Rebecca as she stepped up onto the first place podium. This drew a lot of different reactions. most of them being overwhelmingly positive, and that was what our Live Moods talked about yesterday here on this show. And I'm trying to find there it is. Baltimore Ravens cornerback Marlon Humphrey was maybe the most vocal critic of the move when I hate saying those names back to back. Biles and Childs, we're bowing down as Andrade took the podium. The Baltimore Ravens quarterback said, "This is literally disgusting," drawing criticism to them praising someone who just beat them at the Olympics. I wanted to talk about this just the day after that Liv did, because I think there's context here that I don't know if people don't know or if we're just not talking about. What was so amazing about Rebecca being able to not only compete in these Olympics, perform as well as she has, but beat Simone Biles in one of her best events after having torn her ACL 3 times. Rebecca Andrade tore her ACL 3 times and came back from that injury 3 separate times in a sport that is incredibly high impact on your joints, requires a lot of flexibility, and she overcame it to win Olympic gold, beating 2 of the best, Simone Biles and Jordan Childs. I thought that move by Biles and Childs was unbelievable class, acknowledging what all an athlete has overcome in their time to achieve Olympic greatness. I thought it was a great move. Big love to Rebecca Andrade for overcoming what she has. That's unbelievable. Quickly, talking Katie Ledecky, she sets more history as she moves into second place all time with 9 Olympic gold medals behind only Michael Phelps. Katie Ledecky now has 9 gold medals, more than any other athlete in Olympic history with the exception of Michael Phelps. I remember when Katie Ledecky broke in, I believe it was 3 Olympics ago, and just being blown away by her dominance while she keeps it going. And oh, by the way, she's got more medals than that as well. I believe 13 total, but 9 gold. And she's now second place all time behind only Michael Phelps. Just decorated. And that's from last Olympics. She's got more to add to that. Rounding it out for today, let's get that medal count going as the U.S. continues to chip away at the People's Republic of China for the gold medal lead. 21 gold medals for the U.S., 22 for China. The next closest is France with 13. So I think it's safe to say that China and the U.S. have pulled away pretty handily in that category. While in overall medal count, the U.S. continues to just run away with things. 79 total medals, the majority of which being silver. U.S. finishing second a lot in these Olympics. 30 silver medals for the U.S., next closest being People's Republic of China with 19. We've still got a little bit over a week left of Olympics, right? Just about. Yeah, I think a little bit more than a week left. So I'm continuing to stay dialed in every single day using the Peacock Multiview and the Gold Zone. We're not sponsored by Peacock, but if they'd like to sponsor us, they sure can. I think they put out a great product for the Olympics. Big shout out, big kudos to Peacock. I ran over. This is supposed to be a 30-minute show. We're at 34 minutes. Appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll continue to monitor everything that we talked about today. There's a lot of that is still ongoing. We'll keep track of what's going on with the Buffs. I'm going to keep track of what's happening with Jordan Addison up in Minnesota. And we will try to update you guys on what's happening with The Rock and the UFL. Jay back there running the board again this morning. We've got some stuff going on in the studio today, so we should have a hockey show later this afternoon. It won't be at the regular noon start time as we've got something else going on here in the studio, but hoping for that later in the afternoon. I'm Jesse Montaño. Thanks for starting your day with us, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.